A unit's history is part of its DNA. It's part of who we are. It reminds us of where we came from, what we stand for, and of the expectations of those 1st Cav veterans who came before us in upholding the standards of the 1st Team. Here in the 1st Cavalry Division, we celebrate our past as we train today to be ready, Cav ready, for whenever the 1st Team is called to defend the nation. The 1st Cavalry Division was born in 1921 at Fort Bliss, Texas, stood up as a horse cavalry division. From horses to helicopters, the division has fought in every major conflict since World War II. You are standing in Heritage Hall, located in the south entrance of the division headquarters. Here you will see examples of 1st Cav troopers and their individual equipment from every era, from the jungles of the Pacific to the deserts of the Middle East to the plains of Europe. The troopers of the 1st Team remember and honor our past and continue to live the legend as America's only cavalry division.
Welcome to the Purple Heart Memorial. The Purple Heart Medal was first created during the American Revolution by General George Washington to honor the bravery displayed by Continental soldiers. Originally designated the Badge of Military Merit, it was referred to as the Purple Heart because the badge depicted a purple patch in the shape of a heart. It was not until 1932 that the modern-day medal was reinstituted. Upon reinstitution, it was awarded for military merit and as a replacement for the World War I era Army Wound Chevron, which was worn on a soldier's service coat sleeve. In 1942, with the creation of the Legion of Merit, the Purple Heart was solely awarded for wounds sustained in combat or to those killed in action. While numerous members of the division have earned the Purple Heart, most recipients were from the Vietnam War era. 2 members of the division who earned Purple Hearts are Major General Vern D. Mudge and Private First Class Billy L. Laufer. General Mudge was wounded in action during his time as the division commander in 1945 during the liberation of the Philippines. He was wounded by artillery shrapnel and was evacuated off the front line. The second noted recipient, Private First Class Billy L. Laufer, was a member of C Company, 2nd Battalion, 5th Cavalry Regiment, and was awarded the Medal of Honor posthumously. PFC Laufer engaged 2 North Vietnamese machine gun bunkers on September 21, 1966, to provide covering fire for his team. His actions allowed his fellow troopers to establish a base of fire and bought the unit time to evacuate the wounded. Unfortunately, he was fatally wounded while saving the lives of his fellow troopers. This monument serves to remind us all of the sacrifice and commitment of all Purple Heart recipients. I encourage you to take a moment to reflect on the selfless service, courage, and audacity of the 1st Cavalry troopers who have received this honor. Welcome to the Division's World War II Memorial. After a Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, the division was called into combat. While most cavalry units turned in their horses for scout cars, half-tracks, and tanks to fight the Germans in North Africa and Europe, the 1st Cavalry Division turned in its horses and deployed as dismounted cavalry. The division won acclaim fighting as infantry against the soldiers of the Japanese Empire in the Pacific Theater and earned 4 campaign streamers, which now adorn the division colors. While fighting primarily dismounted on the islands of the Pacific, the 1st Team used trucks and jeeps on the beachheads, in the jungles, and on the city streets across which they fought to move supplies and evacuate the wounded. At times, these vehicles even served as altars by chaplains during battlefield services at the front. As we remember the troopers that served during World War II, let's honor one of the division's heroes from that era. The Jeep in front of you is of the type that was used by G Troop, 5th Cavalry Regiment during World War II. Private First Class Troy McGill, a trooper in the 5th Cavalry Regiment during World War II, served in G Troop and fought in the Admiralty Islands campaign. When a 200-soldier-strong enemy force assaulted his squad, PFC McGill led his team in a fearless defense. As his troopers experienced heavy losses, he ordered the wounded to evacuate before taking the enemy on alone. When his rifle was rendered inoperable and hostile forces were just 5 yards away from his position, he used his rifle as a club. When morning came and reinforcements arrived, they found PFC McGill killed in action, surrounded by 105 enemy dead. For his heroic action, PFC McGill received the nation's highest award for valor, the Medal of Honor. Welcome to the Division's Korean War Memorial. In 1950, the 1st Team deployed to South Korea to counter North Korea's invasion. The 1st Cavalry Division stormed ashore at Pohang-dong, South Korea, in the war's first amphibious landing. By July of 1950, the division began offensive operations to the north and crossed the 38th parallel on 9 October 1950. Closing in on North Korea's capital 10 days later, the 1st Team marked another first by becoming the first in Pyongyang, the capital of North Korea. The division fought for 18 months in continuous combat operations in Korea, earning 7 additional campaign streamers. During the Korean War, the division had a total of 11 Medal of Honor recipients. One of them, Private First Class Melvin Brown, is honored on the Korean War Memorial located at the center of the vehicle display. PFC Brown was a member of D Company, 8th Engineer Battalion. On September 4, 1950, PFC Brown's platoon was attempting to capture a hill when North Korean automatic weapons delivered withering fire upon them. Taking a position against a 50-foot-high wall, PFC Brown was wounded while delivering heavy rifle fire on the enemy. Relentless, PFC Brown fired at the enemy until his ammunition was depleted. Out of ammunition, he resorted to throwing grenades to flush the enemy out. Finally, when all of his weapons were exhausted, he positioned himself at the edge of the wall with an entrenching tool. PFC Brown defended his position against the advancing North Koreans and killed as many as 12 enemy soldiers with his entrenching tool before finally falling. For his valor and selfless action in direct contact with the enemy, PFC Brown was awarded the Medal of Honor. The 4 vehicles and artillery piece displayed at the memorial are the M4 Sherman tank, the M26 Pershing tank, the M24 Chaffee tank, and the M101A1 105mm howitzer. These 4 vehicle platforms served the U.S. Army with distinction during the war. The M4 Sherman, boasting a 76mm gun, was the most commonly used tank during the early days of the war and was effectively used to stem the tide of North Korean aggression. As you can see painted on the front of the Sherman, troopers painted tiger heads on their tanks to strike fear into North Korean and Chinese forces they encountered. The M4 served alongside the M24 Chaffee, a thin-skinned light tank armed with a 75mm gun. The M24 was used for scouting missions once adequate numbers of M4 Shermans and M26 Pershings arrived in Korea. The M26 Pershing, armed with a heavy 90mm gun and thick armor, replaced the M4 Sherman, and it was used in an infantry support role. Welcome to the division's Vietnam War Memorial. After the Korean War, the division returned to the U.S. briefly in 1965 and was restationed to what was then known as Fort Benning, Georgia, and is now known as Fort Moore. While there, the 1st Team reorganized for new missions in Southeast Asia. The battlefield in Vietnam needed a new horse to provide the mobility required to win decisively in maneuver warfare. This new pony came in the form of the helicopter to allow the cavalry to maneuver quickly in the jungle environment. While keeping the spirit of the Cav, the 1st Team became the Army's first aeromobile division, and within 90 days, the division was back in combat in Asia as the first fully committed division of the Vietnam War. The division's baptism by fire as Air Cav came when elements of the division conducted an aeromobile insertion into an obscure valley in Vietnam called the Ia Drang. This was the first major test of aeromobile units in combat and validated the concept of aeromobile operations, the trademark of the 1st Team in Vietnam. From the Ia Drang Valley to Khe Sanh and onward to deep attacks in Cambodia, the 1st Cavalry Division's aeromobile concept was battle-tested and recognized as an invaluable tactic on the Cold War era battlefield. The division departed Vietnam after 7 years of combat and 13 additional campaign streamers and a presidential unit citation. One of the most famous combat operations conducted by the 1st Cavalry Division during the Vietnam War was the landing and ensuing battle at LZ X-Ray, executed by the 1st Battalion, 7th Cavalry Regiment, Gary Owen, who was led by Lieutenant Colonel Hal Moore. The story of the unit's deeds during the Battle of Ia Drang is immortalized in the book We Were Soldiers, Once and Young, and the movie We Were Soldiers. Gary Owen landed at LZ X-Ray, located in the Ia Drang Valley, with simple orders: find and kill a large force of North Vietnamese troops located in the mountains of the Ia Drang Valley. Over 3 days, 17 Cav fought tenaciously, winning the battle and claiming nearly 1,800 enemy forces KIA. One of Lieutenant Colonel Moore's platoon leaders in the battle, First Lieutenant Walter Joe Marm, demonstrated indomitable courage during the battle. His company was moving through the valley to relieve a friendly unit surrounded by an enemy force estimated at regimental size. First Lieutenant Marm led his platoon through withering fire until they were finally forced to take cover. Realizing that his platoon could not hold out very long, and seeing 4 enemy soldiers moving toward his position, Lieutenant Marm moved quickly under heavy fire and killed all 4 enemy soldiers. Then, seeing that his platoon was receiving intense fire from a concealed machine gun, he deliberately exposed himself to draw its fire. After locating its position, he attempted to destroy it with an anti-tank weapon. Although he inflicted casualties, the weapon did not silence the enemy fire. Quickly, disregarding the intense fire directed at him, he charged 30 meters across open ground and hurled grenades into the enemy position. After expending his grenades, and despite suffering severe wounds, Lieutenant Marm managed to kill all 8 enemy soldiers defending that point. For his actions, First Lieutenant Marm was awarded the Medal of Honor. The 2 helicopters seen here are the UH-1H and UH-1B Huey helicopters. The UH-1H is a transport variant of the Huey and could transport 13 Sky Troopers into a hot LZ. The UH-1B is a gunship variant of the Huey, equipped with 2 rocket pods with either 7 or 19 rockets per. Used together, the UH-1B would fly on station, delivering precision fire upon enemy positions, and allowed the transport Hueys to deliver first-team troopers into action. Welcome to the Operation Desert Storm Desert Shield Memorial. Having become the premier armored division for the U.S. Army in the 1980s, the first team was called again into action when the United States led the international community in defending Saudi Arabia and liberating Kuwait from Saddam Hussein's aggression. The first team deployed to Southwest Asia as part of a multinational force participating in Operation Desert Shield in August 1990. President George H.W. Bush, with the backing of United Nations Security Council Resolution 678, delivered an ultimatum to Iraq: get out of Kuwait or suffer the consequences. On February 26, 1991, the coalition initiated combat operations against the Iraqi army. The commander of Allied forces, General Norman Schwarzkopf, directed, "Send in the first team, destroy the Republican Guard, let's go home." The first team utilized the M1 Abrams and M2 Bradley to attack with lightning speed 100 miles deep into enemy territory, identifying and destroying Iraqi defensive positions and equipment. Pausing only to refuel, the 1st Cavalry Division charged through the enemy's defenses, slicing deep into Iraq's rear area, 200 miles deep in just 24 hours. Again, the division was victorious and earned an additional 2 campaign streamers. Operation Desert Storm validated the Army's post-Vietnam Big Five modernization efforts that produced the Abrams main battle tank, the Bradley fighting vehicle, the Apache attack helicopter, the Black Hawk utility helicopter, and the Patriot air defense missile system. These systems performed well in the Gulf War, showing the robustness of American military power, as well as demonstrating the effectiveness of the Army's new air-land battle doctrine. During the Gulf War, the 1st Battalion, 5th Cavalry Regiment, distinguished themselves at the Battle of Wadi al-Batin, successfully fooling the Iraqis into thinking that the main coalition advance would be through the Wadi. They achieved this deception operation by using vehicles to stir up massive dust clouds, generating fake communications, and erecting decoy bunkers, imitating a large troop buildup along the Iraqi border. Once ordered to conduct a reconnaissance in force to probe the enemy defenses at Wadi al-Batin, a scout platoon came into contact with Iraqi forces. Reinforcements were pushed forward to support the scouts. However, the reinforcements were engaged by hidden Iraqi mortars and anti-tank guns. During the ensuing battle, 1-5 Cav suffered 3 troopers killed in action, with 9 wounded. Despite those losses, and during this engagement, the troopers of the 1-5 Cav delivered a vital strategic victory against the Iraqis. To the south of this location on Cooper Field, you will see a M2 Bradley, bumper number A5115 Cav. It's marked with the names of Sergeant Ronald Randazzo and Private First Class Arden B. Cooper, who were both in the Battle of Wadi al-Batin and were killed in action serving their country. Welcome to the Global War on Terrorism Memorial. After 9/11, the 1st Cavalry Division saw extensive combat in both Iraq and Afghanistan during the global war on terrorism. The 1st Cavalry Division deployed 6 times to Iraq in support of Operations Iraqi Freedom and New Dawn, and 4 times to Afghanistan in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. The 1st team fought against Iraqi anti-government insurgency groups, Al-Qaeda and ISIS, over its 10 deployments. The memorial's foundation is formed in the shape of the 1st Cavalry Division patch and is approximately 32 feet wide and 45 feet long. The foundation floor replicates the 1st Cav's desert patch, tan tiles with a black granite stripe and horse head. Under illumination, the patch duplicates the official yellow and black patch. Inside the memorial, centered on the black stripe, is a bronze statue commissioned and built in Iraq. The statue, crafted from an actual photo, is of 2 1st Cav troopers rescuing an Iraqi child caught in a mortar attack in Baghdad, and is a fitting commemoration of the division's entire mission. Our troopers are symbolic of all U.S. efforts to provide security, stability, and support, with the child symbolic of the U.S. commitment to Iraq's future. The statue base is of black granite and shows the brigade-level crests that participated in the 1st Cavalry Division's mission during OIF-2. The memorial's panels are of black granite from India, from the same mountain the Vietnam Memorial granite was mined. The names are listed in chronological order according to the date of casualty, and within each day, the names are alphabetized. The list starts on the left side and travels around the right side of the memorial, ending on the back of the memorial. There are 747 names on this memorial, including 1 Marine, 2 airmen, and 2 interpreters. Also listed are the 2 first-team soldiers who were killed in the terrorist attack on Fort Hood on November 5, 2009. Engraved on the right front entrance is the Purple Heart, and on the left front entrance, the Bronze Star. The Soldier's Cross, boots with a reversed rifle and helmet, is also engraved on the inside. The national colors are embossed on the black panel on the inside, and a 1st Cavalry Division patch and national colors are on the reverse side. Etched into the black granite is a copy of the oil painting of the 1st Cavalry Division's Iraqi mission entitled Turning the Corner by well-known military artist Mr. James Dietz, and commissioned by the 1st Cavalry Division Association Museum Foundation. The memorial entrance contains a mission plaque with a brief mission history along with a colored map showing the 1st Cavalry Division and its assigned attached units' area of responsibility during the division's deployments. Adjacent to the Iraq Memorial are panels that were added for the division's deployment to Afghanistan. Again, a mission plaque describes the different deployments, and the names are recorded on separate panels. There are a total of 154 names on the panels for Afghanistan, which include 3 civilian contractors, 4 interpreters, 39 coalition partners from other countries, and 2 military working dogs. Welcome to the division's POW and MIA Memorial. During wartime operations, instances occur that result in American military personnel being declared captured by enemy forces or listed as missing in action. These POW MIAs are the brave men and women who go into prisoner of war camps or are simply never heard from again. To date, the 1st Cavalry Division has had 708 troopers missing in action. Out of the many prisoners of war and those missing in action, the following 2 examples highlight the sheer valiance of the troopers who have served in the division. Captain Emil Capon, a Catholic chaplain from the 8th Cavalry Regiment, and Captain Fred McMurray Jr., a helicopter pilot in B Troop, 1st Battalion, 9th Cavalry Regiment. Father Capon of Wichita, Kansas served with the 8th Cavalry Regiment as a chaplain and was taken as a POW by the Chinese in 1950 during the Battle of Unsan. The entire regiment suffered 1,149 total casualties, including those taken as prisoners of war. Father Capon was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor for his unrelenting service to his fellow POWs as a chaplain. He administered religious services in his POW camp and thwarted the enemy's attempts to break the will of American POWs. Chaplain Capon's remains were identified in North Korea and interred in Kansas in 2021. First Lieutenant McMurray, whose marker is found at the base of the OH-13 helicopter, distinguished himself on April 7, 1968, during a reconnaissance mission with Sergeant James J. Powers, his observer door gunner. Both men flew in support of an operation in the Au Chu Valley, Thu Thien Province, South Vietnam. The aircraft departed the 1st Air Cavalry Division base at Landing Zone Stud with an AH-1G Cobra attack helicopter. First Lieutenant McMurray was flying low-level reconnaissance when he reported seeing several recently repaired weapons positions and freshly used trails. He marked the location with a smoke grenade to allow the Cobra to identify and fire rockets on the target. He also reported sighting NVA soldiers whom he engaged. The Cobra attack helicopter continued to place suppressive fire in the area and transmitted a request for a rifle platoon, which was launched and was over the area in roughly 15 minutes. During the fighting, First Lieutenant McMurray's aircraft remained in contact with the enemy and received effective enemy fire. The helicopter began burning in flight and was forced to make a hard landing. After the battle, the search team found Sergeant Powers unconscious, but First Lieutenant McMurray could not be located. However, one American boot print was seen along with First Lieutenant McMurray's aviator's chest protector and helmet. He was presumed captured by the enemy and was listed as missing in action. First Lieutenant McMurray never came home. A presumptive finding of death was issued on November 13, 1974, after which he was promoted to captain posthumously, and his status was changed from missing in action to died while missing. Captain McMurray's awards and decorations can be found in Heritage Hall. The OH-13 Sioux observation helicopter seen before you has the tail number of the helicopter flown by First Lieutenant McMurray on 7 April 1968 and is a tribute to the one that Captain McMurray would have piloted when he went missing in action. This OH-13 helicopter provides overwatch for the POW MIA Memorial, symbolizing that our POW MIA troopers will never be forgotten. Welcome to the famous Bosnia Rock. As you conclude your walking history tour and return to Heritage Hall, you will pass the Bosnia Rock to your right. In 1998, the 1st Cavalry Division assumed the mission of Task Force Eagle, conducting peace enforcement operations in Bosnia-Herzegovina in support of the Dayton Peace Accords. The division headquarters was located at Eagle Base in Tuzla and would command Multinational Division North. The famous Bosnia Rock, brought back from Eagle Base in Tuzla, is currently located here on the south side of the 1st Cavalry Division headquarters in commemoration of that operation.